Every day, we make hundreds of decisions that mark our place in the universe. As individuals, the decisions of our lives create the path of our life. Where we go to school, who we choose to date, how we decide to deal with adversity, and those who do and do not agree with our point of view, all nudge us along to who we are to become. In business, the collective decisions of our organization tell another kind of story to our customers, to our employees, and to the marketplace about who we are and what we value and how we think about the other person on the other end of our decisions. And that's what shows up on the internet. That's what people talk about. That's what you see on TripAdvisor and Yelp and Opinions and all of these other websites. Customers who love you are not afraid to tell other people to come to you and to do business with you. But you need to earn the right to their story first. What's interesting is in these days of social media and customers talking to each other, we own about 22% of the marketing message of the story. But 78% of customers making their buying decisions is around listening to each other, listening to the stories of how they were treated, about how they were honored, and if the experience was memorable enough to pull them back and to want to have it again. Beloved companies make 5 decisions that mark their place in the universe with customers. They decide to believe. They believe their customers, and they believe their employees, and they practice this first by suspending cynicism. They decide with clarity of purpose. They know the higher purpose they have in serving and supporting their customers' lives, and in decision-making, they align to this purpose, to this promise. They decide to be real. They shed their fancy packaging and their corporate veneer and create an environment for their employees where they're able to bring the best version of themselves to work. And they decide to be there. You know, it's an everyday struggle to be there for customers on terms that are important for them. And these companies are there every day because they know with every interaction, with every touch, with every hello and every goodbye, they need to earn the right for their customers to return. And the beloved companies are very good at not only saying sorry, but repairing the emotional connection that happens when you make a mistake. Does anybody here have brothers or sisters? I have 6. Catholic Italian from Chicago. So, remember when you were young and your brother or sister punched you or pinched you? What did your mom do? They took that child and grabbed him by the shoulder and put the child in front of you and said, "Say you're sorry to your sister," right? And what did you get back in return? Sorry. Oh, I snort sometimes. I apologize. But you knew you were going to be pinched or punched another day. That's what happens when we receive these shallow apology letters in the mail from companies, but they aren't really genuine. They don't repair the emotional connection. You know, there's a prosperity that I found in doing the 2 years of research on this book around organizations that consistently are deliberate about making decisions that are right for their customers and their employees. Yes, they have financial prosperity. What you'll see is that even in the financial downturn, these companies grew or at least outshone the competition. Having clear decision-making is one of the most important arrows in the quivers of these beloved companies. But beyond that, they have prosperity of the human spirit. Their customers want to come back to them, and their employees create an energy that becomes the magnetic force because customers and employees want to interact with each other. Griffin Hospital in the Connecticut area is one of the hospitals that was most reviled about 15 years ago. If you had a kid with a broken arm, you would drive about 15 miles out of your way to find another place to take your child to the emergency room. But by thinking about deliberate points of contact with their customer and creating an experience for families and patients. Griffin Hospital experienced the unbelievable experience in 2009 of 6,400 people applying for 44 positions. In the healthcare industry, where finding qualified nurses, doctors, etc., is rare, this is a testament to their ability to make decisions that bind them with their customers. USAA, a company so deliberate in knowing and understanding the armed forces that they serve and support, creates an engaged workforce by bringing people in with military orders. They have to wear the flak jacket and the helmet that the military personnel wear, and their customers return at 98% retention rates. Lush Cosmetics, an organization that is so beloved that they have what they call a mafia meeting every year where they cut 100 products even though customers love them, create this magnetic force by the way they do business that they can break even in a new store in as little as 3 months. And Zara. Zara customers walk into their stores on average 17 times a year, because of the deliberate actions that they make in how they serve and support and create a product experience that's never-ending because they know the lives of their customers. You need to know your customers' lives to serve their lives, and clearly in the businesses that you are, you're sitting across the desk from them, you're talking to them personally. But what I want to take you on today is a journey into perhaps the story they might be telling about you, to your friends, to their relatives, to the marketplace, about who you are and what you value. In this new book, I Love You More Than My Dog, what we do is go on a journey of some interesting stories of organizations and then throw a challenge out to you to decide how you'd make the same decision in that circumstance. So let's go through some of these, and you can hold that mirror to yourself and see how close or far you are from being that very beloved and prosperous company. The beloved companies decide to believe. By believing that customers can be trusted, extra rules, regulations, and policies and procedures that create a wedge between ourselves and our customers is replaced with wanting to come back to an organization and wanting to shop again because we know we're trusted. Who hasn't returned something to a store that you know wasn't unworn? You know was unworn, but as you approach the desk, we get a little fearful that we're not going to believe. By believing that employees can and will do the right thing, management oversight, reviewing every action, and a diminishing ability of employees to think on their feet is replaced with energy, innovation, and a spring in the step of people because they want to be a part of a place where they're enabled to bring the best version of themselves. What's interesting about these companies is that there's congruence of heart and habit. What we learned as children and the decisions that we make about doing what's right is enabled in these companies. And that's why these organizations are beloved, because there's no disconnect between doing the right thing in our personal lives and in our business lives. So for your first challenge question, I'd like you to think about this and ponder how you make decisions in your organization about, do you consider your customers an asset or a cost center? So as you're starting a relationship with someone who might be walking in, maybe they're not dressed to the nines. I know I go shopping and I don't always look my best, and it's always an interesting experience to see how I might be treated, and especially in those fancy stores in California where I live. But I'm potentially over long term of my life cycle with these companies may purchase a lot of things. So the question is, do you think about not just punctuating the relationship with your customer around a transaction, but rather think about over the long-term relationship you might have with them, how big that asset could grow. As they call you with an issue or a worry, do you enable the folks in your organization to make decisions based on growing that asset? Clearly, as individuals in our lives, we feel nickel and dimed by organizations on a daily basis. And the companies that understand that I'm an asset grow because I'm believed and trusted. This is a $6,000 bike. Now, you go into Zane Cycles in Connecticut and you take this bike out for a test drive. You say, "Can I take the bike out?" And they say, "You bet. Have a great ride." What they don't do is ask you for any collateral. No ID. They just say, take a great ride out. Take the bike out, have a great ride. Now, Chris Zane, the owner of Zane Cycles, says a lot of his new people especially say, Chris, what if the bike rides away? Well, what Chris knows at Zane Cycles is every customer whose relationship they punctuate and deliver on in the right way is equal $12,500 over their lifetime. So why would you threaten that long-term, valuable relationship by punctuating it by questioning someone's integrity? Now, the interesting thing is that they lose about 3 bikes a year. And they lose the $300 and $400 bikes, not the $7,000 bike. Are you hiring partners or filling positions, especially as the economy starts to loosen up? Are you thinking about the lifelong values of the people you bring in, and do you want them to be part of the story of your company for the long term? Or do you have a need and you just have to fill that seat? Chick-fil-A is an organization that hires people for life. Anybody had one of those chicken sandwiches? It's a joy to go into that store and to drive through it. And part of it is because it's a little work area behind there making those sandwiches and serving them to you. And they make sure as they hire those folks that they talk to the people in their life. Not just work people, but relationship people to find out how collaborative they are and if they have the same values. As a result of building a business based on selection, they've just experienced 42 years of consecutive sales growth. So this is a pledge of belief that takes this very fuzzy concept and turns it into real practices that you can implement in your organization. Would you like to say this with me? I'm going to take that as a yes. We believe in the good judgment of the, you can say it with me, in the good judgment of the people we hire, that trust is reciprocated by customers. In the truth of our customers' words, trusted, prepared employees grow the business. In more trust than rules, in more training than policies. Congratulations, I believe you! Beloved companies have something that binds the organization together and moves them from executing tasks to delivering on an experience that customers would want to repeat again. Does anybody here have children? We're a prolific group. I call the companies that are executing tasks and not thinking about their customers' lives and the role that they have in them as everyday companies. And I call the companies that are really thinking about customers and their lives the beloved companies. So let's say you're a cup manufacturer. You make children's cups. The everyday company would have their manufacturing, their product development people get together and put together, let's say, 3 cups. Then they'll bring in some customers into a traditional focus group, a bunch of moms probably, put them around the table, and they'll say to these moms, pick a cup. Well, maybe the mom needs a cup with a little indentation on the side or a straw. You know, we all know the difference between a great meal and a not great meal is spilled milk on the table or water on the floor and all of the other ensuing craziness that occurs. The everyday company is selling cups. The beloved company is supporting parenthood. Do you hire people who fit the soul of your company? And more importantly, the hard decision comes, do you encourage those who don't to leave? If you have clarity of purpose, of what your role is in serving and supporting customers' lives, then that can define actually the criteria for how you bring people into your organization. Zappos.com actually has this interesting litmus test for commitment. Especially in the down economy, what they were able to do is they bring people in for about 2 months of training. And at intervals of every 3 or 4 weeks during that 2-month period, they ask people, you know, you can leave now and we'll pay you $2,000 if this isn't for you. Now, those folks, because they're call center folks, could easily take the $2,000 and take another job and pocket that money and walk away. but they have very few people who take them up on it, less than 2%. And what's the litmus test is those who don't take it because they've made a commitment versus those that do. And because of this, 75% of their daily orders are from repeat business. What are your customer experience bookends? What research has told us and is validated over and over again, the stories that customers tell to each other are about the memories and the emotions of when you begin and you end an experience. So are you deliberate about the emotion you want to create as a customer walks in the door or starts the process of a transaction or an experience or working with you? And are you deliberate with what you want them to feel like or hear after you say goodbye? Because those memories are what they tell other people, because that's their short-term memory, and that becomes the story of your company. So let's go back on that journey with Griffin Hospital. Remember, they're the company that 15 years ago people didn't want to go to. So you've got that kid in the car with the broken arm, and he's whining and not happy, and you know it. And as you get closer and closer to the hospital, I don't know about you guys, but my shoulders start to clench up, and my hands on the wheel are getting tighter and tighter. What Griffin Hospital did, which all the beloved companies are starting to do, is they think about the emotion, the first emotion you have, which is fear and panic. And they've created an operational process to start to create calm. As soon as you step your foot out of the door, you hear music in the parking lot, maybe the sound of music. They also have a valet that will park your car. And a concierge, there's hot dog wagons when you have children waiting for a long time, because they know that they need to relieve the stress and create an immediate partnership between families and patients. They have grown 3 times faster than other Connecticut hospitals because they're deliberate, because they thought about the emotion and then created a few simple action items to deliver on it. So what's your story? How clear are you? Do you begin with the customer or the cup? If I walked around your organization or your business and asked people to tell me the 3 most important touch points in your experience with customers, how many answers would you get? There's a merchant I know in a small Midwestern town who sold children's shoes. He gently steered moms to the first pair of shoes she was buying for her little infant, often to a more inexpensive but more reliable shoe than the mom might have chosen for herself. And when these young moms opened up their pocketbook and sometimes didn't have enough money to pay for the shoes, the merchant said, "Get those shoes on your little one's feet. Bring back the rest when you're in town." Alone in his store, he would make himself a little bit of lunch in the back in his hot plate. He would fry up olives and peppers and sausage and garlic, and his customers would come in and share a bite, and increasingly they seemed to come in at lunchtime. And when he retired, a line of people circled round the block, 3 blocks long, to say that it would never be the same buying shoes again, that the story of their life and their children's lives, in some cases their grandchildren's lives, were punctuated by this merchant and how he had been a part of one of the most important parts of their customers' of their lives. My dad, Vincenzo Giuseppe Cristando Lombardo, selling Buster Brown shoes in Des Plaines, Illinois, is the first one who taught me the importance of being real. And yes, all 7 of us Lombardo children also had to wear the Buster Brown get-up. Anybody ever wear a blonde pageboy wig in the hot Chicago weather? Humility, one of the most important parts of being real. But the question is, can we scale this? Can we be this kind of an organization on an everyday basis? And the answer is yes. The beloved companies take pains about being real. Now, one of the interesting things is all of the lingo and shorthand that we have in our organizations to define customers, processes, etc. And what happens is this lingo gets in the way of thinking about the human being on the other end of our decision. So a lot of the attitude and then what translates to actions is how people talk to each other about customers. So I always ask people, if I had a cup and I had it against the wall and I was listening to a meeting in your business, is that what you'd want other people to put up on the internet about your company? Now, in the airline business, you guys know that there is also a shorthand of how people talk to each other among the flight attendants. You know much better than me. If I'm in seat 10 and I want a cup of coffee, the flight attendant might go to the back and say, Paxton, seat 10 wants a cough. Well, what about me? WestJet decided to get rid of the lingo. They're a Canadian airline. The folks from Canada know that. And what they did was they call their executives big shots. They think about their passengers as honored guests. And by creating a new attitude and how they serve and support customers, it permeates the organization so much that in 5 years they leapt over all the other Canadian airlines and became the #2 airline in the Canadian industry. This is a letter, an interesting thing from our friends at Southwest. When I was writing the book, I had the wonderful privilege of spending some time with Colleen Barrett, who was the president of Southwest, and she was telling me about this. There was the first rash of customer satisfaction surveys that had gone out in the mid-'90s, I believe, and Northwest Airlines, for whatever reason, decided they were #1, upon which Southwest Airlines put out this ad in a lot of media. It said, after lengthy deliberation at the highest executive levels and extensive consultation with our legal department, we have arrived at an official corporate response to Northwest Airlines' claim to be #1 in customer satisfaction. Liar, liar, pants on fire. The beloved companies take their business seriously, but they don't take themselves seriously. What's your white paper bag? You know, we've all handed people a job application to fill out. But isn't there a better way? Can't we do something that captures the whimsy of our organization, the spirit of what we're doing to serve and support our customers' lives, that would somehow give us a view into the soul of our candidate, or tell us a little bit about how they might interact with customers and how they are in their life? Amy's Ice Creams in Austin, Texas, actually gives their applicants a white paper bag. And they have to return it within 2 weeks, turned into something that indicates who they are. Brilliant, right? Because at Amy's Ice Cream, anybody ever been to the Seattle Fish Market? It is similar to that. At Seattle Fish Market, there's this place they throw fish back and forth. At Amy's Ice Cream, they throw ice cream back and forth from one to another. They catch it in cups on their chins, and it's like a carnival ride in there. Now, how do you ask the teenager applying for a job standing in front of you, are you a little bit weird? So this is what they do. And as a result, word of mouth alone, they do know advertising sells their business. The money they would have put into advertising, they put into philanthropy. So what's your story? How real are you? Do you touch a chord with customers? Do they feel the humanity? And do you create an environment for your employees where they're able to bring the best version of themselves to work every day? Being there for customers really is your reliability engine. By being there for customers and creating moments of connection that are reliable in how they can interact with you, and fusing that with moments created from their point of view, you earn the right to grow. Because if your customer can't tell someone else, their mom or their grandmother or a colleague, here's what happens when you go there. Here's what you get first. Here's what the experience is. Here's how it feels. Here's how it always ends. And here's how reliable they are. Then you don't have a story to tell. You know, when I work with some hotel clients, sometimes I say to them, it's great. I know if you want to play music of the customer's choice as they walk in the room and let them choose whatever chocolate they want and feather pillow or non-feather. But if there's hair in the sink and dirt under the bed, who cares about the chocolate? So do you have, for example, a service magnet? Some things of reliability are simply things that bring your customer in because they know, even if they're not buying anything from you, that you're a purveyor of information, of support. They can ask questions anytime, and that, as we know, creates that reliability as a knowledge source. And knowledge is the first step of really creating a bond, a relationship with your customers where they don't feel like you're always selling them. What TD Bank, which originally originated as Commerce Bank, decided was to put a penny arcade in each of their stores. Now, anybody ever have a whole jar of pennies? You go to most banks and you have to roll them up in a certain way and do other things. This is an actual arcade, and they have a version for children, and you do not have to be a bank customer. So this is their magnet. There are sometimes lines of people outside the door waiting to go into the arcade, and you get a receipt which you can take the money out or open an account within 10 minutes. 1,300 people come into the store per month to use their arcade, and they've had 5 opportunities to wow per year because of this arcade. So do you have a magnet? Something simple that you could do to pull people into your organization that doesn't cost anything, that simply creates a reliable wow moment. When your service providers change or you change your staff, do your customers feel like they have to push the restart button? There's nothing worse than feeling like you have a relationship with the company and then someone leaves and everything they know about you left with them. You don't feel very honored, right? Edward Jones has a process, they're a financial advisor company, has a process where when they bring in a new advisor, they actually shadow a senior advisor for a year. And then they've changed their reward and recognition and compensation that the senior advisor actually hands over some of their cases to this young advisor who they're serving and supporting all throughout the year. So that when the handoff happens, the relationship is in place. It's cemented. And the customer doesn't feel like they've fallen in the black hole of, you don't know me anymore. As a result of being deliberate, they have the highest customer satisfaction ratings of any other full-service brokerage firms, a full 50% higher than their competitors. So are you there for customers? Do you think about them on their terms? You know, one of the great joys of my life was I was able to start working at Land's End in 1983 in the middle of a cornfield in Dodgeville, Wisconsin. And back then, literally, back then, you know, when you wrote a check for $50 and sent it to a catalog company, you weren't sure you would have something in return. So we had a guarantee. So that we always knew 98.6% of the time we would ship every order out within 24 hours. But beyond that, we imagined customers' lives, and that was also the report card. How the UPS driver came up, how it felt to pull a turtleneck over your head for the first time. Thinking about customers' experiences and creating reliability. You know, how you apologize really is your humanity litmus test. How a company repairs the emotional connection and removes the pain shows the true color of your company and the people inside of your organization more than any other action that you might take. Grace and wisdom guide the decisions of the beloved companies when the chips are down, not accusations or skirting accountability. You know, I think about apologizing well as a peace process because when you make a mistake, what customers don't mind is that you made the mistake, because we're human. We all know our feet are made of clay. But what's more important is that you acknowledge it and that you practice these 4 behaviors that show humility, remorse, create an organized and deliberate process, and repair the connection because you're aware that something has broken. So how proactive are you? You know what's interesting is that in business, we've gotten very deliberate about being proactive around IT recovery systems, right? As soon as our computer system goes down, we know what's broken, we know who to call, we have 5 different action items to take. But what about when we've disrupted our customers' lives? Why don't we have a recovery system to proactively every day know what happened to their life as a part of what journey we've sent them on or what we're doing for them, and be proactive about that? At Southwest Airlines, every morning they convene something called the MOM, M-O-M meeting, or the Morning Overview meeting. And in this meeting, the meteorologists convene, the operations people, and all of the other people, as well as a group called the Proactive Customer Service Recovery Team, led by a gentleman called Fred Taylor, which the New York Times has named the Chief Forgiveness Officer. And what they do is they talk about all of the flights and the incidences that happened the day before that interrupted their customers' lives. And they figure out how bad this issue was, and based on what happened to the customer, they craft personal letters for the customers based on what they went through. And in many cases, they send customers out what they call the love buck, L-U-V, which is money to spend on another flight. Now, in an everyday company, the people with the beans counting would worry about how much those love bucks cost, right? But in this beloved company, 70% of those customers who receive these gestures come back and bring other people. And they've seen a net positive revenue impact in 2009 of $1.7 million additional dollars in sales as a result of doing the right thing, congruence of heart and habit. Can your frontline rescue customers? You know, there's nothing worse than having this grand gesture and then forgetting to tell the phone people or the person manning the desk. Even at Land's End, we made some of these mistakes every once in a while. For whatever reason, and don't tell me why, we had this funny habit of dressing farm animals in clothes and putting them on the front cover of the catalog. Now, one year we had this lion, like a lion from the forest, and he was wearing an Oxford shirt. And the ad that went all over the United States said, if you want to know about this shirt, just call and ask Leo. Well, nobody told the phone people. Sorry. I think it was the pigs in Wisconsin. So they found Leo, the janitor, and he answered calls. Our friends at LL Bean have the same process around giving the front line the ability to work from their heart and their gut and make the decisions that they know are right. Now, I know you need to put some parameters around that, but start with believing. There's a reason why sorry is the last decision in the chapter of this book. It's that you need to believe your people. You need to be clear about the higher purpose you have with customers. You need to be real and human. You need to be operationally deliberate to know where the breakdowns are happening. And that enables the best kind of sorry that repairs the emotional connection. As a result, they are worshipped, and they just had annual sales of $1.5 billion. So what's your story? When you apologize, are you genuine? Do you restore confidence in customers? Is this your finest hour? Are customers telling your story? Are they telling the story you want to be told about who you are and about what you value? You know, love is irrational. Customer love is a reward for what some consider irrational business behavior. The companies that get a disproportionate piece of the pie do so because they're not always looking over their shoulder at each decision to see what it will get them. So decide, make a choice with each person that walks in your door, with each trip you plan, with each call you take, with each person you hire. Make a decision about who you want to be, about how you want to show up, about what you want the story to be told, about who you are, and about what you value. The decision is yours. Thank you so very much. Have a great conference.